Hello everyone and welcome once again to the Game of the Day presentation, this time for round 6 of this year's British Chess Championship, currently taking place at Warwick University. This is International Master Andrew Martin reporting. Now as we go through the event, the games at the top end become a lot more gruelling, and we're seeing all Grandmaster clashes now on a daily basis, and that will probably carry on until the end of the event. My game of the day for round 6 is the heavyweight clash between Danny Gormally playing white and Jonathan Hawkins playing black. Gormally opened with 1e4 and Hawkins played e5. A Rye Lopez appeared on the board, and the main line of the closed Rye Lopez where black plays bishop e7. White protects the pawn, black plays b5. These moves have been seen literally tens of thousands of times before. The bishop drops back, and now black gives the notion to white that he's thinking about playing the Marshall Gambit. That is, of course, c3 and now d5. An opening which continues to score excellently for black at Super Grandmaster level, at all levels really, and which actually white avoids in the game Gormally-Hawkins, where Danny prefers a4. So a4, an independent variation. White sets up an immediate threat of a takes b5. And essentially black generally prefers bishop b7 here, or the move Hawkins plays, which is slightly more committal, b4. There is a real danger that that b pawn can become exposed and become something of a liability for black to defend. But there are also advantages to the advance. You know, black's making it more difficult for white to develop his queenside pieces to a degree. And the pawn at b4 has yet to be removed. It's still slightly awkward for white. All the same, I think Gormally was probably pleased to see that move. And bishop b7 is maybe a more reasoned choice for black. So b4 was played, and Gormally played d3. d6, knight bd2. And black played knight to a5. A good move this, because it enables him to establish a foothold in the centre with the move c5. White challenges the pawn, and now black plays rook b8. So black's not really feeling the slight exposure of this pawn on b4 just yet. He defends it economically, and he's getting ready to recapture with the rook if white takes on b4. So Gormally played a very sensible move here, d4. Again, a move which has been seen many, many times before. Now, just dropping back, there was a recent game played in Gormally earlier this year, which caught my eye because it led to a quick win for white. It's the game Hawkins versus Schlosser, where white played knight c4. But only after a remarkable double mistake. And I thought I should show you this game because it is quite interesting. Black opened up the rook and played bishop d7. This is all very sensible stuff. And white put his queen on c2. Black took the knight. White recaptured. Black played queen to c8. And now the apparent point of queen c2 was to be able to play queen a2 in a position like this, constructing a battery down to the f7 square. So black played bishop g4. White played knight g5, attacking f7. And black played bishop h5. Rook to e3. So nothing remarkable so far. Both sides are just building up. So black played h6. Well, at this point, it appears that both sides had a kind of brainstorm here, because Hawkins played an incredible move. He played knight to e6. I mean, this is very, very tempting, but in fact it's a serious mistake. And quite incredibly, Schlosser did not take that knight. He played rook to e8. So the game concluded, rook g3, bishop g6, knight takes g7, a very, very nasty move indeed, with the point that after king takes g7, bishop takes f7 is crushing. Black played d5, white took the rook, black resigned. 23 moves, thank you very much. But going back to knight e6, I just don't understand why black doesn't take the knight. Bishop takes e6, check, bishop f7. completely baffling, as after bishop takes c8, bishop takes a2, isn't white going to lose material in this position? So it's like a win from a loss, win to a loss in one move. And, you know, it makes you wonder whether the game has been entered correctly in this online database that I'm consulting. Anyway, that was a quick win which shouldn't have been. Gormally decides not to travel that road, and he decides to play d4 instead, which is a good move, putting pressure on e5, and black strong points the pawn by playing queen to c7. White takes, recapture, knight to c4, and now rook to d8. A free move on the queen, b3. Well, this move creates a kind of logjam on the white queen side, but on the other hand, it certainly exposes this pawn, the b pawn, even more so than it was already. And Hawkins suffers from having to defend this pawn for the majority of this game. Yes, it's quite difficult for white to get his queenside pieces out, but at the same time, black has permanent pawn weaknesses which are not going to go away. So Hawkins is a bit tied down here, and white has the clear plan of just completing his development and then trying to round up black's loose pawns. So the queen drops back to c7. White plays bishop d3, and now queen to d6, protecting the pawn on a6. That's a new move here. There was a game, Carlson versus Mickey Adams, which was played in Moscow 2007, where Mickey just played a5. Again, a committal move. As you can see, black's pawns are very exposed, and Mickey's just weakened the b5 square. Might not be too significant, but Hawkins didn't like that. So bishop c4. Black plays bishop e6. Again, black has many moves, but I just wonder whether exchanging off the light square bishops in this position doesn't help white more than black, because it makes it easier to round up this pawn on b3, and white can use the c4 square. This is a really important square to put a knight on. White's plan, you know, could be to redeploy the knight up to c4 very quickly, and after that the pressure's really on black. So we reach a type of position where, you know, black's got to do nothing, and he's got to do it very well. He can't entertain too many ambitions of actually winning this position, because well, as you can see, black's dark square bishop is a very inferior piece when we compare it with white's knight. So Hawkins has to tread water, never nice against a fellow grandmaster, and Gormally very sensibly comes up to try to put his rook into the centre on a nice square. Now, if we just drop back, can black defend this position more toughly by playing rook d6, just trying to hold everything? Well, then rook d5 again. The key to this position is understanding that white's got full control over these squares in the centre, and that is what's cramping black's style. In this particular line, although black can trade off white's active rook and then maybe free the back rank, something like this, rook e1 keeps a nice steady edge. Too many pawn weaknesses in the black camp for him to feel comfortable. Back at the game, Hawkins toughed it out with rook db8, rook d5, very good move, rook e6, queen e2, and now black played h5. Just hoping maybe to create some counterplay against the king. Counterplay's in short supply for black in this position, so an advance of kingside pawns may create something. But, you know, Gormally continues to play excellently, manoeuvring his knight into c4, as we discussed earlier. And black plays rook c8. White goes queen f3, black played rook d8. White was happy to exchange, and now queen to f5. Again, trying to exchange off the active black queen, and Hawkins played queen to f4. Rook d1 taking the file, the bishop moved. And now a slightly surprising idea, g3. I must say we had expected the straightforward queen takes f4, and I still think that's the best move for white here. Takes and then f3. Fixing the black pawn on the same colour square as his bishop, And really, I don't see why this position shouldn't be a fairly easy win for white. The plan is clear. He's going to put the rook on d5, just bring the king to the centre, and then it will be very tough for black to defend the weaknesses. g3, of course, that's a strong move. Nothing wrong with it, but it does give black slightly more hope that he'll be able to create something on the king side, and this Hawkins strives to do by lashing out with g5. So Gormally took, black took back with the queen. White played his knight to e3, aiming for f5, which, as you can see, is going to be a pretty strong square. But the knight was very good on c4 anyway, so I'm not sure why you would have moved it when rook d5 was available. Well, I mean, this looks very strong to me. I just don't see how black defends this position. Something's going to drop off. For instance, if he goes for it with h4, we just take on c5. And if takes, queen takes, this looks like a nice easy win for white. But Gormally, he's trying to play it without risk, so he keeps the black queen out. Black plays h4 and in comes the knight. Hawkins took on g3, white recaptured. Rook came back to e8, white moved his king up. Rook d8, and now another pair of rooks were exchanged. I suppose Hawkins feels that the more material he can get off the board, the easier it might be to defend, especially if the queens can remain on the board. So the queen came to d3, bishop comes to f6, queen takes a6, queen d2 check, king f3, and because white's on the bishop, black has no time to take on b2. So he gave a check, the queen came back, and this really now should be a fairly comfortable win for white. The king came to f2, black took on a4, Gormally played queen g4 check, king f8, and now the knight came to h6. Again, I'm not sure about this move. Possibly the tenseness of the game was affecting both players, because I think probably better here was to move the queen in, get the queen into a decent situation, something like queen d1, and then get the queen up to d6. This looks like a better way for white to proceed. But knight h6, well, should still be good. The queen came to e8, there was a check, king e7, check, king d7, the queens came off, king e2. And I suppose Gormally felt, well, I'm going to get the king to c4, you can't do much to stop me, and this should be an easy win, I'm going to mop up your pawns. But Hawkins goes for counterplay, bishop g5. Knight came into d6, check, king e7, knight b7, and finally in this game, black's dark squared bishop gets to attack something. White takes on c5, black takes on b2, c4 was played. I presume that was Gormally's point. And now we enter quite an interesting endgame position. Again, it should be a clear win, but judge for yourselves. So the king came to d6, white played king f3, black played bishop b4, white went knight c1. And the first point of this move is that if black plays king c5 here, white gets a winning king and pawn ending by playing knight d3 check. Let's see it. Off comes the bishop, and now king to g4. And I don't think black can come back from this position. If he plays king c5 and runs to defend his pawn, then king f6 wins. If he tries to counterattack with king d4, then g4 wins. And if f6, king takes f6, king takes e4, g5 wins by a couple of tempi. So Hawkins doesn't go for that one. He plays king e6. White played knight d3. The bishop came to e7. And now a move which I'm not sure I like very much, g4. I mean, probably it's okay. It should still win. f6. But now a move c5, which according to the computers is a mistake. White should just play king to e3. Probably fatigue had really set him big time in this position, because Hawkins replies with a mistake, bishop d8. He should play king d7. And after this move, it seems to be difficult for white to win, according to the silicon monsters. The point of this move is to simply attack the pawn by going king to c6. So white's got to do something fast. For instance, king e3, king c6 is not much cop. So he's probably got to go g5. F takes G5, knight takes E5, check king C7. But now, has white got enough material left to win this position? I'm not sure he has. Black's on the pawn, he's got to defend it. And then king C6, king G4. Well, what happens if black passes in this position? White brings his king in, black brings the king up. Is this a win? How does white make progress? Let's see the difference in the game where Hawkins plays bishop d8. King went to e2, bishop a5. Knight came back. That makes room for the king to come up. Well, of course, this is a very big difference, as now Gormally gets the winning position he craved after knight b4 check. And of course, with the entry of the king into d5, black's goose will be cooked. So Hawkins resigned this position. A very valuable win for Gormally there. Takes him to 5.5 points. And as he's already played How, you know, this was a very big game indeed. Okay, there are 4 rounds still to go. But this win, I'm sure, installs Gormally as one of the big favourites to win the British this year. So I hope you enjoyed the game, and I'll see you in round 7.